we are. There we go. Hey, Dave Millenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. You know, each week I try to start with a question, and I have to say I got to start with a statement today. And it was like a cool statement. And I'm like, I got to really unpack this with this guy. So the statement is, your network is your net worth. And I was like, and then I start thinking about, am I the sum of my 5 friends? And I get all messed up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm like, screw that. I'm going to get this guy on my show. So I'm honored to be hanging out with Josh Elledge. How are you today, sir?
Dave, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. You are the founder of Up My Influence. So tell us, what in the world is Up My Influence?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Everything I've done has been, in terms of business, has been quite unintentional, accidental. You're just kind of swimming along, doing your thing. And then you're like, wait a minute, I have to solve a problem here, solve the problem. And then like, oh, wait a minute. That's pretty valuable when we just kind of figured out. So Up My Influence today is we fill sales schedules and we guarantee those results. And we don't do that using any of the traditional spammy lead gen stuff that, there's a lot of great lead gen companies out there, but they're kind of doing a lot of the same stuff. They're trying to, it's interruptive. It's a little bit it's just akin to what everybody else is doing. And so for decision makers, most of that is just noise. If I get cold calls, cold email, cold DMs, ads, it's just interruptive. Like, I don't know who these people are. I kind of don't care. And it's unfortunate because they're probably really good people, but again, they're investing big money in a spray and pray kind of way of doing business. And I just don't think that that's I know it's not very effective today because I think we could just ask, our friend that's listening to our conversation right now, does that work for you? Do you love it when people, come at you with scripts and, just kind of just treat you like a number? And I don't. And particularly, again, if you're, look, if you're just selling like $7 things, that's different. But if you are hoping for larger engagements, when I say larger, most of the people we work with are agency owners, consultants, coaches, B2B service providers, anywhere from usually, $8,000 all the way up to millions of dollar transactions. So that's who we typically work with. Spray and pray is not going to work for them. You have to build relationships. You have to be willing to have the conversations. And if you're not willing to do that, and someone told you can automate all of that, I'm sorry, but they are getting rich. You are not. It's very difficult to sell, to what I would consider 2 different personas, right? Oh boy, this is getting to be a long answer.
That's all right. Go for it.
I'm getting right into the meat, man.
You got her. Yep. We're hitting the ground running today.
This is so important to understand. This is like, you don't sell to $10 people. You're not going to sell, $20,000 products to $10 people, and you're not going to use $10 sales mechanisms to try to sell to $20,000 clients. It's just, and anybody tells you that you can, one size fits all marketing. It's just not true. I don't buy like someone who's brand new in business or considering starting their own business. I've been in business for myself for over 20 years. I'm pretty savvy. I hire a lot of people. I hire a lot of experts and consultants and specialists and service providers, et cetera. But Dave, nearly everybody that I hire and work with, it was a natural evolution to an existing relationship. We got to know one another. There was high trust, no like and trust. Like we just, and then it's amazing. Like, and I see this pattern, and I think we all can identify with this. Like high level business leaders, when they start, it's like, let's say you go to a mix or something like that. And you're like, da, 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 what do you do? What do you do? Just chit chatting. And they're like, well, hey, why don't we chat next week and see if there's something we should be doing? Heck yeah. Like that is normal. That is how big ticket buyers buy, unless you're like in an RFP situation, that sort of thing. But generally, there's a lot of business that's getting done. And, while everybody, I would say the amateur business folks are just trying all these spray and pray spammy techniques. Listen, it's not your fault. It's just someone convinced you that that's what they told you that's what you were supposed to do. And it's unfortunately, again, we could just look at the results on it. I'm not saying it won't work. It's just, man, you got to break a lot of dishes in order to get
Sure. Yeah.
in order to get to one.
Right.
And, you have to deal with a lot of uncomfortable situations. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just build meaningful, high-level relationships week after week after week after week, and just let your network do your work for you? It's
Yeah.
like, imagine being a local realtor and just you're so well set in your community that you've got at least 200 people that, when asked, who do you recommend for a local realtor, your name
Sure.
is the first name that comes to their lips.
Sure.
Dave, when you get to that point in business, it's game, set, match. You
Right.
no longer have to stress about advertising and marketing and hanging out on social media just because, right? And
Right.
you start to, you don't have to do that used car lot kind of stereotype where, like, oh my gosh, I can't go home and spend time with my partner or my family because
Sure.
a buyer might come to the lot. That's how, unfortunately, a lot of amateur business owners
Sure.
are acting today. And
Yeah.
I'm just, again, you don't have to do it. You can build your business with class. And it's all about the people that you know and know you, and the relationships that you build. And we'll talk about the mechanics of, like,
Yeah.
exactly how we do that. And,
For sure.
how anyone, regardless of like where they're at in business, can start to evolve how they do business so they can make it just much more enjoyable.
Well, I'll tell you, you bring up those three famous words: know, like, and trust, right? And everybody's heard them. But I got to say, I don't know about you, Josh, but I'm getting daily LinkedIn messages from people that I've never met before. And they're trying to sell me something. They're trying to tell me, 20 minutes a day, you do this and you'll make millions, or whatever it is, right? And it's such a challenge because they don't know them. And their expectation is for me to stop my existing stop my relationship with my marketing company, or stop my relationship with my insurance company, whatever it is. And I mean, it just doesn't work. Like you said, it's really more of an interruption in the day than anything else. So again, when I saw the words, your network is your net worth, I thought, man, there's some real power behind that. And I think like you said, I think we really underestimate our network. So for somebody that's listening, on this, Josh, what do you, a network to them, and a network to, or is a network just the people around us that we know? Are they people that will help us? Kind of define that, if you could, for us.
Well, this is interesting, right? So, and I think I can't answer this for everyone, but because you'll know this, but if you were to put pen to paper and you say, listen, here's the deal. I'm going to give you the make friends button. And what I want you to do is I want you to come up with a list of, let's say, 40, 50 centers of influence, maybe they're clients, maybe they're partners, investors, whoever it is that, who you need, right? Or like, oh my gosh, if I could just get the attention of so-and-so, and we could, build a relationship, I know we could do something really awesome together. You know who that is. Write that name down.
Okay.
Now, chances are, on average, most of those people are going to be a little bit higher level than you are in business, right? It's that law of association. Okay. So let's say in the world of business, you're a solid 4.5, which is actually, that's amazing. Like if you're at a 4.5 in business,
sure.
If we think of like, maybe the titans of, whoever, it would be a 10. Okay. You're not there. Nor am I, nowhere close. But let's say you're a solid 4.5 and your clients or your partners that you want to work with are like a 6. Okay. So law of association is, again, and by the way, network is your net worth. Law of association, like none of this stuff is my original thought. These are like Jim Rohn and others, said all this stuff. But so you're the combined average of the 5 people you hang around with most. So to increase your average, there's in the movie Finding Dory, there's this here's my spirit animal, Gerald, who is this just really awkward, goofy sea lion, and he's just a complete goober. That I identify with him.
Okay.
And so he wants to get on this cool, like this sea lion, with the cool sea lions on this rock. And they don't want him on the rock. And so, but the way that he earns time on the rock with them is that he does an active service. He goes and fetches the pail or something like that. All right. So that's how you do this. You want to lead with noble intent. You have to be ethical. You have to be upfront. And by the way, if you are in a position in your business where you just have this broy sales energy and it's all about making that money and all that other stuff, this is going to be really difficult for you, because we all know what your intention is before you even open your mouth. Like, you're not fooling anybody. If it's all about you, we feel that energy. Like the moment you walk in the room, like, and especially people who have been in business for any length of time, we can read you. We know what you want. You might have to do a little soul searching first. And what I would say is that if you can make a subtle shift, and the shift is my income is in direct relation to the impact that I have in the world, the direct impact in the world. In other words, the mission or my values supersede, the money that I'm going to get paid today. Now, I know we got to make money, right? But what I'm saying is that the bigger impact you make in the world, the more impact you have in the lives of people, the more money you will make. You just have to trust that process. But if you do it backwards and it's all about like, I got to get that money, you're just going to find you're going to get a lot more resistance. The only people that are going to resonate with you are people of that same energy. And I've seen what that looks like. It's an incestuous pool of like I've been to conferences and I'm like, I am in the wrong room. And but anyway, so again, you want to lead with noble intent, but you have to serve your way up, right? Okay. Because you're just not at that level. And so, and also if you're the one initiating the conversation or the relationship, like you're the one that's reaching out, they're going to ask themselves, why is this person reaching out? What do they want? And you better have a good answer to that. Sure. I can come up with a lot of examples of how I've implemented this. And I've gotten to do stuff like speak for the Tony Robbins organization. I've been on some really, amazing platforms. I've been nationally syndicated and like all this other stuff. Like I've been on some great podcasts and shows and stuff like that and collaborated with some really amazing people. And it was because if I was the one initiating the conversation, I needed to be the one leading in generosity. You have to reach out with noble intent. I'm going to do something nice for this person as an expression of my appreciation for who they are and what they've created in life, or how their content or they have made an direct impact in my life. And I want to let them know about that. And I want to reciprocate first. I want to give first. So it's that's the philosophy, is you want to have a give first mentality, and then just and I can never say this right. What is it? Let the chips fall where they may, or
nice. You did it first time.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Yeah, you have to. And here's the thing, and I'm just going to close with this because sometimes Dave, you're asking like 30-second questions, and I'm giving you 10-minute answers. Forgive me for that. Good. But the thing here is that eventually you will see that you will not be able to outgive the market. If you show up as a classy, generous, giving business leader, leaders will reciprocate. Amateurs, maybe not. I don't know. But absolutely, anyone who's created success in business knows that one of the main reasons that they got there was because of who they knew. And we're all looking. I know, Dave, you do this too, right? You look for those diamonds in the rough. You're looking for those superstars that are just have that great attitude. And you're like, man, this is someone that is going places. I want to support and help them. And so be that person.
Sure. That's awesome. So I want to really kind of put some meat to this. So I'm stuck on this 50. So I'm thinking in my mind, we're gonna put 50 names down on a piece of paper of people. Are they all people that we know, or are they people, some of them that we want to get to know? I mean, is there any real advantage of one way or another in trying to get that sphere of influence?
No, because I mean, it's like everybody we know currently is someone we used to not know. So, So, well, here's what I would say is that, you do have to be thoughtful around who you are associating with and networking with, right? And listen, it's really cool and awesome to be, connecting and serving your peers, and people are kind of at that same level as you. That's great, like, because we're all in that battle together. Like, we have great stories to tell, but we need to step outside that. So, for example, let's say that there's a marketing community that you really, really love. That's great, but it's going to be filled with people like you. And that's probably not maybe where you're going to be selling products and services to. So if you keep selling within that tight community of marketers, it just, I don't know that it's really going to get you where you want. You're going to have to step outside and go serve people that don't know what you know and know who you know. I think that as we start expanding our sphere of influence into these other communities, I remember that it's like in PR, which is my background, so if you're just hanging out with a bunch of other PR people, well, you're not really, those aren't going to be your clients. Sure. So that's cool. Go there for networking and, just, sharing notes and stuff, but get out, go join a community of dentists or contractors, HVAC companies, and just be helpful, be the rock star in that community, do good stuff for those people, be insanely generous. Oh, but I was going to mention this, right? Also, is that, we do have to be mindful of how we invest and spend our time. So for example, nearly anyone can book time with me, but my team's going to check them out. And it's just because I just don't have the bandwidth to meet with every single person. I wish I could, but it's just not the way I'm designed. I'm just not set up like that. I've got a really full schedule. So I have to look at, and my team will basically, look for, hey, listen, thank you so much for grabbing this time. I need to know a little bit more about what you're looking for, because a conversation with Josh might not be very fruitful. Because if you're coming in and you want to have a conversation with me, and yet you're saying, I am absolutely not willing to make any investments in my business, I can't really help you. All I'm going to say is well, I've got a great piece of content here, I guess, and shrug my shoulders. I don't know what else to do, in terms of action items from that. So, so I want to help and serve people, but we do have to set some limits on, how we're investing our time. So Bob Berg, I would say the godfather of, go giving, which a lot of what I'm talking about is foundationally based on that philosophy. Bob's got some pretty strict filters about how he engages and who he engages with. That said, he's always leading in generosity. One of our core values is democratization. So we create a ton of stuff. When you go to Up My Influence, like our website, we give away what other people charge money for. And I'm happy to do that. If you go through and I will give you a free masterclass in exactly what I'm talking about, step by step, how to implement this. And if you look at that, and this, I would encourage all of my other leader friends to do this same thing, because that will serve as a filter. If they say, this is great advice, cool, we're just going to do this internally, they were not going to be a client to begin with. Sure. They're looking for something different. And so if you can help somebody and you can help make the world a better place, awesome. But most people with budget are going to go through that content and go, Josh really knows what he's talking about. I'm going to hire him. I want to work with the guy, the gal, who is the author of all of this stuff. And they'll reach out and they'll hire you. So give it all away. Sure. give away your expertise, your knowledge, your implementation, and your customization and that sort of thing. That takes bandwidth, that takes budget, that takes people and resources in order to get that done. So yes, it's fair that you would charge money for that.
Okay. Well, and thanks for sharing that. And I mean, a follow-up question to me would be, so I have these people on my list, and some of them I know, some of them I don't know. It's obviously easier to have noble intent and be generous with the people that you do know, because they're going to probably receive what you're giving quicker. If there was somebody that I wanted to move up into for whatever, whatever that looks like for anybody listening, and they don't know the individual, how do you get them to know, like, and trust you? Is there any tips that you have for us to, kind of find somebody that there might be some opportunity in the future we just don't know yet? I mean, how do you start that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is so important that you get this right. If you are reaching out and you are asking for discovery calls so that you can, increase someone's profitability by 12% or something like that, or you have just this amazing offer that's all about you, or, kind of what you want to do for them. It's like, it's like going on it's like, I've been married for 27 years, so I don't know, but I'm going to imagine it's like online dating and reaching out, and you start talking about proposing marriage on, like, it's just weird. Stop doing that. Yeah. Like, I don't know who you are. So when you reach out, like, I'd say maybe you have a little bit more leeway if you're talking about something that's really low ticket. But if you're talking about professional services, I'm sorry, but I don't hire strangers, and I don't book calls with strangers either. Like, I book calls with friends. So the first outreach needs to be something that is insanely generous, that will earn you proximity, but it has to be something that the other person truly wants. Do they want a white paper? I don't know. Maybe, probably not. I get people shoving white papers at me in the DMs. I get people trying to book calls with me in the DMs. Like, if listen, and by the way, hopefully to our friend that's been listening to us, you've heard some good, like, tweetable things I've said. And this is one, I don't think I've said this originally, but marketers ruin everything. They really do. Marketers are like locusts that descend on crops. As soon as they find something good, they all descend on it, they decimate it. And then good business owners are just kind of left with things that just don't work really well anymore. Now, here's your saving grace. Marketers generally focus on lazy, stuff that feels super efficient. But at the end of the day, just causes a lot more noise. So right now, according to the American Marketing Association, we're exposed to thousands of brand messages every single day now. So, that's what everybody's doing. So you got to differentiate yourself. While everybody else is banging on the front door, once you go through the side door, right? And you're going to have to do a gut check. What does my person really, really, truly want? How do you like to be approached? Like, if I were to reach out to you cold, your authority can carry you a long way. Okay. But at the end of the day, I have exceptionally qualified people that cold DM me or email me, and I mark them 100% as spam. I mean, that's what everybody does. Don't be a spammer. Okay. So I am a big fan, Dave, of platform. So if you're keeping score, if you're writing notes based on, this guy's giving a lot of gold here. I hope I am. I hope you're not just passively
I'm taking notes. So I'm already on page 2. So keep going.
Okay. So I'm going to explain why platform is just, I'm biased, right? Because that's what I do. I'm not saying you have to use platform, but you are going to have to come up with something that you are willing to give away that other people don't or are not giving away. So for example, like, how did I get on Entrepreneur on Fire? Met John and Kate at a conference. I think we had kind of been similar circles. So, there was like some sort of like, oh yeah. It was like, we knew each other through mutual friends and stuff like that. And I said, listen, I just want to say thank you so much for okay. So Dave, let me back up just a second. Okay. Before I start talking about platform, let me give a couple of other examples of how I've done this.
Sure.
And then, because I'm going to spend a lot more time on platform because of some inherent benefits, I think that exist only when we leverage platform. I'll explain exactly what that is and so forth. Okay. So let me go through a few other examples of the principle of what I'm talking about. So talking with Kate, I'm like, listen, hey, I was on your website and I noticed that you guys don't have a press kit. listen, that's what we do. This is back when my influence was just media consulting and PR. We don't do that work anymore.
Okay.
And I said, listen, I've probably listened to more than 100 episodes of Entrepreneur on Fire or EO Fire. It would be an honor if I could have my team and I create a press kit for you. And I'm happy to do it pro bono, just as a thank you for everything that you've given me.
Sure.
She said, oh my gosh, yeah, that would be amazing. Awesome.
Sure.
That's probably going to cost me a couple $100. Am I willing to do that? Yeah, I am, because I know that will earn me a little bit of time and attention with them. And it did. Like, we ended up doing really cool stuff together. And I truly have massive respect for John and Kate and like the work that they do. I really, really do. So I really mean that. So I'm not approaching them with an ulterior motive. Like, you have to be cool with an outcome that is a complete goose egg, right? Because I'll give you another example. Because sometimes they won't reciprocate right away. It just won't. There's nothing imminent, right? So, and don't come right out of the gate and ask for stuff either. Just like, play it cool. Like, they're not going, chances are this decision maker, this center of influence, they're not going away. Like, they're going to be around and they're going to remember you, especially when you give freely and don't ask for anything in return immediately. Then there's going to be this, we call it in sales, like this reciprocity needle, right? Where it's like, you, in a perfect world, like with true, like A-listers, like people you really want to work with, bury the needle on reciprocity and just let it stay there, right? But you want to keep showing up in a way where it's just be classy. Okay. And now in this case, we did the stuff and blah, 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 blah. And, we kind of got on some calls and, got that delivered. And then, in that, toward the end of the conversation, John, or I forget who it was. He's like, hey, is there anything we can do for you? I'm like, well, I don't know. And this is the way I said, I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to be a guest on the podcast. Sure. What is that? How do you decide, who, would be a good fit for it? And they're like, sure. Oh, no, come on board. Yeah, we'll be happy to have you. Nice. Like, oh, wow, that's sure. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so then that led to that appearance. Okay, here's another example. I'm gonna give you two other examples because this is really important. I want to establish this pattern because it's going to stimulate a lot of ideas. Sure. David Meerman Scott coined the term newsjacking. Huge fan. That's how I'd gotten in the press over 2,500 times. I identify what's going on in the media. I offer to be an expert and talk about it, serve willingly to local media. And by the way, that's how I got the 2,500 media appearances. Sure. I approached producers and reporters and stuff, and I offered to just be of service, no asks, no self-promotion. Right. And it's all about just doing the best job I can based on who they are and what they need. So with David Meerman Scott, I produced some content and I credited him and I'm like, this guy rocks. Here's how you can implement, what he's talking about. Here's a few other extra ideas and ways that I've done this. I tag him, I share it with him. And he's like, wow, Josh, that's really cool. And, and then nothing. And that was kind of the end of it. And he was like, sure. Wow, a year later or about, I'm going to Tony Robbins' Business Mastery. I see that David Meerman Scott is going to be a speaker there on stage. Sure. And I'm like, Dave, hey, I'm going to be at Business Mastery. I'd love to connect with you, grab a photo and, sure. kind of, brag about meeting you to all my, folks on social and stuff. He's like, absolutely. So we're coordinating all of that on social or on, in the DMs at that point. Because now, it's like, yeah, I can trust Josh. He's not selling and spamming at me. Sure. So anyway, so we meet up and so he's there with his wife at the booth or whatever after he got done speaking. And he goes, and he said, well, hey, and we started talking. He's like, yes, Dave, can I ask you a question? Like, what path did you go? I don't know that it's appropriate for me to kind of be on the main stage kind of thing, but I think, Tony's got some, they've got some, digital, like, they're doing ongoing series with experts. Do you know who the point person is for that? And, I don't know if I could throw my hat in the ring on something like that. He goes, sure. Absolutely. He goes, he tells his wife, here, hang on, hey, man the boot. And so he just darts off And I'm like, he's like really tall guy. And so I'm just like following him through this crowd. And he's like, and he beelines it to this woman. And he goes, this is Josh Elledge. Josh has done what I talk about. And he's got over 2,000 media appearances, And he would be an awesome, so like he is selling me to the decision maker for, all of Tony Robbins' Business Mastery series. Right. She's like, wow, yeah, let's get coordinated and chat. And they got me in. And so lo and behold, I now got to, speak for it. There was a couple hundred people on that. It was a great opportunity. And we got some good business out of it. Finally, one more. How I got to speak for social media marketing world a few times now is that started with you sometimes, like if there's someone that you're looking to get to, you want to identify, like, let's say that you're like, your life's dream and purpose is to, collaborate with Gary V or, or Alex Hormozi. I don't know. Some people just get this big dealitis, right? And they're just like, they want the top dog. Okay, cool. Great. Whatever. I'm not going to judge you for that. But you just reaching out directly to them and offering to collaborate, it's a non-starter. Like, don't even, you could try, but it's not going to go anywhere because that's what everyone's doing. So play it cool. Identify who their lieutenants are, who's close to those people. But like, if let's say that like an Alex in your world, in your marketing world, like Alex is an 8, you're a 4.5. That's too big of a gap. You can't. You reaching out cold is going to be pretty tough. So generally, you have to stay within a 2 unless you're getting a personal referral introduction, right? Me reaching directly out to the Tony Robbins organization, I'm a nobody. So I need David Meerman Scott to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So, so I was friends with Leslie Samuels, and we knew each other through another community. And, we exchanged podcast interviews. And he goes, well, is there anything that I can do for you at the end of the podcast? I said, well, I know Mike Stelzner, and I'm a huge fan of Mike's work. I love what he does. I love social, I'm just a big fan. He goes, I don't know how he decides, who should be a guest for his podcast, but if you'd be open, it would be my dream to just at least just chat with Mike and see, if this would be relevant for his podcast. And he made the intro. Mike and I chatted. Mike said, sure, let's have you as a guest on the podcast. And I was on Social Media Examiner podcast. And then at the end of that podcast, Mike goes, well, Josh, this was a great appearance because you got to bring your A game. You have to bring value. Right.
You don't have any other game than an A game. Come on. That's all you got's an A game, Josh. You don't have a B game. Come on.
Well, thank you. I hope I keep showing up, a la Captain America. Right. So at the end of that podcast interview, Mike Stelzner goes, is there anything I can do for you? I said, well, Mike, my dream has been to speak in social media marketing world. I don't know. Again, I don't want to presuppose. There's a phrase I've been using, and I know you've heard this now 3 times. Like, I don't know. Like, I literally will like put my hands up like this, right? Like, I don't know, like if I would be appropriate. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to pitch and sell myself. I'm going to let them know that they are completely I'm at their mercy. So I want to take the humble approach. Like, I want to be humble. I don't know, like who decides or how you decide, who would be appropriate to speak in social media marketing world. If there's a process for that, it would just be my dream to speak on stage in whatever fashion, I could provide value. And so, we made some connections, and lo and behold, I packed the room, man. I had over 500 people in that session, and then got invited to speak again the next year, did an internal presentation of like all that. It was really awesome. Like, I'm grateful for that organization. So anyway, so there's 3 examples that don't kind of not necessarily involve platform. Now, platform specifically would be things like social media content, blog content, doing lives, YouTube videos, like video content together, collaborating on content to serve audiences. So I am a huge fan of podcasts for a lot of reasons. Listen, I want to our friend, if you've been listening casually and you kind of tuned out for a second, come back in. Podcasts, I want you to write this down. Here's something you can write down. Podcasts are the ultimate networking tool.
Sure.
While everybody else is spraying and praying and spamming and just marketing and selling and blah, 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 quietly behind the scenes, leaders are collaborating together and you don't even know what's going on. You're just, all this stuff is happening. It's because, those who are truly have the goods and they're willing to serve and they're willing to lay it all out on the mat. Those types of people are doing lots of stuff together. And they all, when you have someone that, like I've got, 25, Dave, I know you've had phenomenal success in business. And, like I have a lot of needs for my company. I need stuff. Right.
Yep.
And so there is almost always, not always, there's almost always going to be opportunities to collaborate with me in some way. Same thing with other business leaders. They just way more things going on. Have a major event going on, have a big marketing push, have these big audacious goals. I need people for that. So I'm always looking to collaborate with other people and let's create a win-win. Sometimes somebody's paying the other person. Sometimes we got, some hybrid, maybe there's some trade going on here and there. Maybe there's some scratch my back, scratch your back. I love that stuff. I love that stuff. But again, podcasts, just spending time in the room with another leader. And then when you appreciate the relationship, no sales agenda, you say, listen, why don't we chat and see if there's something we should be doing together? And you got to be open to all of the above. Some people very rarely at that level are going to come into that meeting with an agenda, right? I think it's appropriate for people to know what each other's superpowers are. And then at that point, you approach the conversation curiosity and you say, yeah, what should we be doing? Maybe it's introductions, maybe it's speaking invites. There's always stuff going on in the lives of leaders. And so just be curious to that. Don't show up thinking I'm going to sell this person. Maybe that might be one possible outcome. It could be something better. So, so you got to be really, really cool about that. But the nice thing about podcasts, I do a daily show. I've done over 1,500 interviews. You are hearing me begin new relationships. And about 20% of those people I work with very directly. 20 to 25% of people end up probably hiring me. And then I'd say there's another maybe 3 to 5%. Like I've hired them. Lot of collaborating back and forth. I've been also too, another benefit of podcasts is I've been 100% inbound as of when we're recording this for 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days. I don't advertise. I'm not saying I won't, I probably will. But for high level, concierge level engagements, no. I don't do any of that stuff. Everyone comes to me and it is a dream. It is a dream. I just get to build relationships week after week after week after week, and people book weeks and months in advance just to, connect with me. It's a good gig, man. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, and I'm guessing for a lot of people listening, here, Josh, they haven't probably been on a podcast before. And so, I know when I do my training on how to keep your pipeline filled, one of them is to make sure and get yourself on a podcast, be a guest on a show. And I know your website is packed filled with different ways to do that. But I just was curious, is there one tip that floats to the top on how to start that journey for somebody listening that's never done that before? Where would they start if they say, okay, fine, Josh, you convinced me, I need to jump on be a guest on a podcast?
Yeah.
Where would they start?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that you want to adhere to and pay attention to, don't pitch yourself to irrelevant podcasts. If you do that, we have spam, we have a network of over 100 podcasts. When we start to see spammy activity, we just blacklist them. If they're just spamming, I don't care, I'm just going to pitch everybody and I'm just going to copy and paste and pitch everyone. That is a fast track to nowheresville, my friend. Don't do that. It is better to spend more time with fewer people. That's how I became a syndicated newspaper columnist. That's how I became a syndicated TV expert. I've had 800 TV appearances alone. And I have not been on 800 stations. It's because I started early and I found where it was appropriate for me. Like, it's like media, like people, like back when we used to do media consulting and PR, people would say, hey, can you get me on, Good Morning America? I said, yes, we can. Tell me about your media experience. Well, I don't have any. Oh, well, then that's going to take a long time.
For sure.
So, because you have to honor the ecosystem. And if you try to shortcut it, that's no bueno. I'm just saying, don't do that. Don't do the spray and pray stuff. Spend more time with fewer people. Also, this whole thing, like, listen, if you're a 2, aim for the 4s and 3s and 4s. It is, Dave, and I think that you would probably echo this. Also, if you're new to being a podcast guest, you need to go out and cut your teeth. Is that the expression? Right? You need to just get good at this, right? Sure. I've interviewed, listen, in 1,500 interviews, not all of them are remarkable. I would say the majority are kind of just okay in terms of guests. And then there are just a few standouts that are just, wow, top of their game. It's an art to be a great media guest. I'm not saying I'm the best. I have a distinct flavor and personality, and I kind of lean into that personality. Sure. Don't be me. But you got to be the best version of you. You have to get trained at this. And the best way to get trained at this is you just got to get out in the trenches and go do 20 interviews on no-name podcasts. Because early brand new baby podcasters, probably, first off, they're going to be way more accessible. Secondly, they may or may not be the best interviewers. Like, they may or may not have the best guest flow for you. They're still working it out too. Right. So you are providing a service to them so that they can just have these conversations. They can get better at doing what they're doing, right? They're going to give you the platform. Right. So show up and be ready to serve that audience. And I come from the Adrian Cronauer School of Journalism. I was a journalist in the United States Navy. And so one thing that, so we had a couple of days with Staff Sergeant Cronauer. And, one thing that he instilled in me is journalism for me went from, oh, it sounds like a fun thing to do, I'd love to be a DJ, to I have a sacred obligation. When I start writing an article, I have a sacred obligation when I get behind a microphone or in front of a camera. I am there to serve. And I am going to do everything in my power to provide the greatest value possible. I'm going to be honest and forthright with that audience at all times, that's Adrian Cronauer. By the way, Adrian Cronauer is, if you've ever heard of the movie Good Morning Vietnam, Robin Williams portrayed him.
Gotcha. Okay.
The story's a little bit different.
Sure.
Adrian Cronauer is like, yes, I said the Good Morning Vietnam thing, but I was not nearly as funny as Robin Williams. No one is. But yeah, so all of that stuff, but go out seriously and do 20 podcast interviews. It's not that hard. There's a lot of great tools out there. You could use Podmatch. There's a lot of podcast directories out there. You can post and ask. You can, certainly you can hire a VA to come and research, go use listennotes.com is a great tool you can use to research podcasts. Don't pitch people that are not doing interviews. Make sure you're not embarrassing yourself by giving the wrong pitch to the wrong person. Spend more time with fewer people, right? Sure. And by the way, if you reach out and they just don't get back to you, don't, also in your pitch, it needs to be all about what can you do for them? How can you make their life awesome? So sure. As a guest, if you're like, I will give you all of the questions, I will give you everything you need, I'm going to promote this hard and heavy. Dave, with our interview, one thing that I made very clear at the beginning is, please let me record so I can promote the heck out of this appearance. And that's the other thing too. All right. A lot of times in media and in podcasts, people kind of approach it with, I'm going to get on TV and all my wildest dreams are going to come true because everyone's going to start beating down the door and they're going to want to buy my thing. And it's all about that audience I'm going to be in front of. No. Right. That is about maybe a third of the value. And I mean that quite honestly, that audience, because Dave, your people like you, your listeners love you. Me, the jury's still out. I don't know. Sometimes, some people are like, this guy talks way too fast. He's way too excitable. Not my cup of tea. I totally honor that and get that. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But then there's some people who are like, okay, I'm interested in learning more about Josh. Like they're at the very beginning of our relationship together. And so that's going to be a while before we probably do much work together and so forth. Right. So, what you have to do is the other 2/3 of the value, 1/3, the other second third is going to be what you do with that content. Okay. I'm going to be promoting this hard and heavy to my own audience who already has some know, like, and trust. Like there's some relationship there already. They're following me because there's something about what I talk about that they like. Right. And I've been doing this a while. So I'm a known commodity in their world. So now when I share, oh, hey, I was in the interview chair and I was on the Positive Polarity podcast with Dave Molina. And they're like, wow, cool. And I'm going to treat it like it's a big deal because it is. And so my audience is going to be like, that's awesome. And then some people will reach out and they'll be like, man, I listened to what you had to say. Got major. So you want to earn proximity with as many people as you can. Proximity leads to familiarity. So we can create familiarity bias. Familiarity bias is when people feel like they know you more than you know them, right? Because of your content lives on. So people are creating virtual proximity together. And then that familiarity bias leads to know, like, trust. That's the formula. And then the final third is going to be when you take your appearances and you make them broadly available as part of your brand, your presence, your sales page. This will improve your conversion rates. This will improve your opt-in rates. This will shorten your sales cycles. Use podcast interviews as part of your sales cadence, your stages and cadence. So if someone's expressing interest, it's like, hey, before we chat, you might want to check out a podcast I did, right? And you share that podcast episode. For me, as a buyer, I don't need someone's personal time. I don't need them to tell me all the stuff. Like, give me a podcast to listen to while I'm out walking my doggy Levi around the block a few times, right? I'll just learn on my own and I can listen at 1.5 speed or 2 speed. By the way, good luck listening to me at 2 speed. I was going to say, I need to meet you because I feel like I already tried to, get it at 2 speed for most people who are a little ADD like me.
Sure. Does being a guest on a podcast, does that add credibility in most people's eyes that, if they were looking at me, who has been on podcasts before, and they were looking at my competitor that wasn't on podcast before, or they couldn't find them. I mean, is that really the influence that you're talking about and making a difference?
Potentially, right? For a subset of those people, not everybody. Some people are like, I only do business talking to people, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna read anything. I'm not gonna watch anything. Cool. Okay. Not them. People like me, I'm an audio learner. Like I just consume audiobooks like crazy. Like I've always got an audiobook going when I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep, when I'm walking my dog, when I'm at the gym, when I'm riding my bike. Like when I've got downtime driving, I'm multitasking and I'm listening to audiobooks because I want to learn and I want to get better at doing what I do. I'm listening to podcasts because I want to learn and get better at what I do. When I'm researching, this just happened. Like I had someone, I said, listen, I'm looking for a partner who could do this. He goes, oh, well, check out so-and-so. In fact, I did an interview with them. Great. I researched, found the episode, listened to that. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to hire the guy. Nice. I'm like, he explained exactly what I needed to know. I'm ready to go and talk about an easy sale. So if you're not doing that, well, you're missing out on business. Sure. So go out and get 20 episodes and treat it like it's the greatest thing ever. Share it to your audience and then create a media page, create a press kit on your site. Not talking about some pretty PDF, just resources, clippings, like set up alerts for your name. And by the way, all this stuff that I'm kind of like, what? I don't know how to do this. Like, go to Up My Influence. I'll teach you how to do all this stuff. I'll give you all the software. I'll get you all the free tools you could use. Sure. But you got to set up monitoring on yourself. There's a lot of great freemium tools that you can use out there so that you're alerted, and then make sure that you have a process so that your team knows, hey, whenever I'm quoted here, you add that to our clippings page.
Awesome.
So because that's, again, these are now assets that you can give. Someone's considering working with you, drip, 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 all this third-party validation and all of this content.
Awesome. upmyinfluence.com is the place to go for that. That is so cool. There's so much here, and we just barely scratched the surface, Josh. As we land the plane today, I just want to ask you one last thing. What would your tip of the day be for somebody listening? Maybe we covered it, maybe we didn't, but if you want somebody to walk away with a compelling thought, what thought would that be from you today?
Yeah, it's time to start treating audiences, consumers, as brilliant humans, because they are. And if you try to treat them like numbers, they know exactly what you're doing. We all know what you're up to. So it's time to just have a gut check and say, would I truly want to be, first off, am I the kind of person that I'm looking to do business with? No, I'm actually looking to do business with someone that's, a little bit. Okay. So you're going to have to try to be incredibly empathic. Okay. First off, would I do business in this way? If someone just sent me spam, would I do business? And if you're the type of personality where you're like, I don't care, my advice is going to be a little bit limited for you. So, and I understand that we're just at different places right now, business-wise, and that's cool. That's fine. But when you get to a point, perhaps, when you get a little exhausted and you're tired of these uncomfortable transactional conversations and salesy processes, or people calling you a spammer, you don't have to do that. That's just what some marketer told you you're supposed to do. You don't need to do that, right? You can build your business like a true professional, lead in generosity. Okay. Work on your presence, your brand, your authority. Like that's really critical, because people are going to check you out, right? So you have to work on that brick by brick. It doesn't have to be all done today, but just every week, put another hour or two into brand building stuff, building up your presence, building up your social proof, building up your authority. That's really important, and never give up at that. And then again, find out how you can essentially use a degree of media credentials, essentially, to lead in generosity, to earn time together, create content celebrating somebody else, and tag them, and use your platform to celebrate others instead of your own ego. Right? That's probably, there's the TLDR.
There you go. No, that's awesome. And I think that really is a blind spot that a lot of us have. I'm working on my next book called What Blind Spots, and it's about business blind spots. And I think that's one thing. So if you think that you would sell to, when you ask that question, would I buy from me? Most people I ask that question to, they're like, oh my gosh, absolutely. Well, you know what? Ask somebody around you, because it's probably a blind spot that you have. Find somebody, find a coach.
No, we're all delusional. We're all delusional about our own stuff.
We're all the best, but
please. No, and your friends on Facebook are generally not going to give you honest answers either. Like, if you were to post on Facebook, hey, it's always been my dream to open up a painting studio, and most of your friends are going to be like, hey, go for it. Follow your dreams, follow your passion. Awesome. And that might be the worst business idea on the planet. Your friends are still going to celebrate you for it. That's what friends are for. But you got to do serious market value. You really got to validate that stuff. And if you ask people, go ask the people you're spamming, hey, just out of curiosity, you never responded to that. Is that because my approach doesn't work?
Right.
Go ask them. Go ask your market, the people you're trying to reach out. Why didn't you respond? Absolutely. And they'll tell you, because I think you're doing spammy stuff. And you have to have a gut check and say, okay, what is my legacy here? What do I want to be known for? Do I care about my reputation? And you might want to pivot a little bit there. I would encourage you to, again, I'm happy to teach you. Go read Bob Burg's book, The Go Giver. I think that's a great foundational, philosophy to how we do business. But at Up My Influence, we have free classes. Also, Dave, I'm always looking for great guests for my podcast. If you're doing good stuff in business, have good domain expertise, I do a daily show. I need good guests. Come, you'll see it on My Influence. You'll see where we got the links for, hey, we're looking for guests, we'll kind of list out, what our qualifications are, what we're looking for. But I would love to celebrate you in front of my audience.
Awesome. Yep. I'm honored. I'm going to be on your show shortly, so I can't wait. We taped it. It's in the transition. So I was honored, and I was like, man, I gotta unpack some of this stuff with you. So, if you listen today and something sparked you, as I say every week, don't just jump into your next activity, really and be intentional about what you just learned in the last 45 minutes or so. There's a ton here. You may need to listen to it again, whatever, but there's a lot of opportunities here. So please make yourself available to that. Jump onto upmyinfluence.com. If you feel appropriate, reach out to Josh and schedule some time with him or his team. And he's super open to helping. If you guys are a great fit, he'd love to help. And again, thank you so much, Josh, for hanging out with us today. And I can't wait to keep learning from you. This has been awesome.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much to our friend that's been listening to me go on and on. It's a joy to be of service.